Hey, my name is David Keller, and I'm going to tell you about Akathisia, more off what it did to me, uh, and what it made me. It didn't make me, but I ended up doing some pretty bad things because of it. I'm going to tell you how it destroyed my life and made me into nothing. I'm having a huge wave right now of akathisia, and it's covered up by a lot of medication, though. I believe this story is one that, unless you really know who I am and know that these things have happened, then well, these things did happen. So I'll try to tell this story. I'll try to do it in 4 segments, and I really hope people pay attention to this because this is a warning of what drugs can do to you. So, sorry, I'm going along my chart here. I have to remember literally all the things that this has done. When I was 16, I had my first shot of haloperidol, and I was aggressive, and uh, because I was using alcohol, and so I got aggressive, and they brought me to the hospital, and the first thing they gave me a shot of haloperidol, and they tied me down on my face, right on my face in the pillow. That's how I was tied down, believe it or not. The next morning, I knew something was wrong. I was really restless. That's all I knew. I couldn't stop moving. I couldn't stop pacing. Brought me back to that hospital, and they gave me something called Cogentin, and it went away. Throughout a throughout a period of age 16 to 24, I had had other occasions of having these shots, haloperidol shot, high powered in the needle, and so I guess one of the first things I remember is I got aggressive again. Actually, a nurse jumped on my back because I was trying to take my clothes back after a suicide attempt. Um, he jumped on my back, and we were wrestling. I didn't hit him or anything anyway. I told them I had a medical alert bracelet on, so they knew it was an allergy to antipsychotics, and uh, even though I had that red bracelet on and I had a medic alert bracelet, they gave me 2 high-powered haloperidol shots. Even though I was calm, they tied me down to a bed. And when I woke up, when I woke up, I was escorted by police. I'm gonna try to make this quick. I was escorted by police into another hospital. They tied me down in a straitjacket, and they kept me in a hospital room with akathisia, nicknamed the chemical straitjacket, in a straitjacket, and that's illegal, by the way. That gave me nightmares for years, and these reactions would last 3 to 10 days. They were just acute reactions, and these things went on, and my akathisia and a lot of rigidness in my body had been there, and the benzodiazepines were covering it up. A lot of things had happened. These types of things had happened before I was 24, but when I was 24, I uh, I was on Zyprexa, and I went on this antidepressant, and I had to come off Zyprexa to go on this MAO inhibitor, and I started getting in huge myoclonic movements. They were violent, and there were a lot of them. Uh, it was so violent. It went on for 6 weeks. No doctors even recommended coming off this medication. It was quite obvious it was the medication. And sorry, this is me. This is me when I was 24 years old, 185 pounds, and pretty athletic. And you can see me right now. I'm about 120. I ended up going down to about 95 pounds with this. Nobody suspected tardive dyskinesia, which is tardive dystonia, tardive akathisia, and myoclonus. not too totally sure. These things are hard to, they're so intercommingled with each other. You can't, it's like Parkinson's and these types of things. Anyways, so this drug destroyed me at 24, and I already had akathisia underneath, and I got covered up with 8 milligrams of Ativan. What was I to know, you know? These movements basically ceased to exist after that because of that dose. 90 milligrams of temazepam with that. That's huge. I was in so much pain, and I went on for years with painkillers and stuff like that, and I was lost for a very long time, you know. Akathisia, you have involuntary movements mostly at night, a lot of pain, and all I knew was these doctors were twisting what I was saying. They were twisting everything. I suspected it from the beginning, and it's 15 years later now, and I know the truth because I'm only on 1 milligram of Ativan and basically nothing of temazepam. My mind is cleared up, but I'm so restless. My legs, my neck, my back hurts, spasms all over. Akathisia is from hell, and I'm going to tell you what I did because of it. So all 15 years, people aren't telling me what's going on. I was at a bar. I was at a bar one night, and I was with these 2 girls, and I was really depressed. Obviously, didn't know what was really happening underneath. I was drinking, and I said, "Take me home." They took me home, and I knew what I was going to do. I went down to my basement as soon as they dropped me off, and I grabbed my dad's hunting crossbow, and I went into my garage, and I loaded it up, and I shot myself with a crossbow. It went right through me. I don't know if you can see part of the scar. You can't. I'm not gonna can't position that, but I have a bad scar now, and it's attached to my chest, my sternum, my ribs. It's just very difficult. Things are very difficult because of that. I'm not going to tell you what happened in the hospital either. That was just a horror story. And I wasn't treated very well. And during that, I was off my medications, and they didn't know to give me Ativan and this stuff, so I was akathisia, and I was going through what happened with the crossbow. I know now why I shot myself with that crossbow. And so that just made my problems worse, and I ended up shooting myself with the crossbow. Ended up me with a syndrome called the complex regional pain syndrome, or RSD-CRPS. It's the worst pain known to mankind, a 45 out of 50 on the something called the McGill Pain Skill Index, above childbirth, about all that. Not at all times, but you're always at like an 8 pain. So I got tardive dyskinesia, I've got RSD-CRPS. I ended up on so many painkillers and just so many. Sorry, I'm looking at the time here. So many different painkillers and just absolutely covering this stuff up. And I'm going to give you a crazy fact here. Because of the akathisia and the tardive dyskinesia, and nobody telling me what the truth is, I came off of painkillers many times. And as many times as I'll tell you, you'll think I'm crazy, but I was just trying to find out every time what was going on underneath. I did 112 opiate withdrawals, pure acute. I always went acute. And people noted that I didn't seem to have a hard time going through it. Now I know why, because I was used to tardive dyskinesia already. And sorry, I'm having a bad wave of this. It's just horrible. At one point, I was having trouble with opiates, or I thought something called the narcotic bowel syndrome. And I went to the Queensway Carleton Hospital in Ottawa, and I asked them for help. I said, can you help me? He said, yeah, okay, signed me in and everything, and I went. I woke up the next morning, and he was a night doctor, a night psychiatrist, and he wasn't there. He wasn't my doctor anymore. And like when I woke up, I'd have another one, and so they offered me a medication. I thought they were going to give me clonidine for narcotic bowel syndrome. And they gave me clonidine. They gave me something called Abilify. I took the Abilify and I didn't know. No one told me what it was, and it was their responsibility to. They have the sheets that say you can't take antipsychotic drugs. And anyway, I got it, and I knew something was wrong. I felt really restless, really, really restless, and something else. And so I signed out of there against medical advice. And my dad came and picked me up, and I got home. And then by the time I got home, I had to go back to the hospital already. I was so restless, pacing, moving around. It was crazy. And I developed tardive acute dystonic reaction with that too. And also something called oppositonus, thoughtness, and ocular gyrate crisis. I'll just tell you, it's amazingly painful to the spine, to the back, arching your back. What did I do because of that? I went and I went to the top of my street, and I jumped off a 30-foot cliff. And luckily, I just broke my ankle bone, my calcaneus bone, and that screwed me up even more. My pelvis, my hips, my legs, my knees. It was a 30-foot jump. Not many people survive that. A lot of people do, but not. Anyway, I know what it made me do, and I know it was the Abilify, and it just accentuated this. It made it so much worse. And man, they give these drugs out like candy. The most precipitous drugs given out, period, at all, in the world, over heart medication, over anything. So I'd done that. I can't give you a year or anything exactly in line. I was also sent to Innis jail for trying to almost jumping off a bridge because a police hit another car, and they decided to prosecute me for wanting to jump off a bridge. That was just another time I was sent to Innis jail, taken off all my medication for 3 full days. That was hell. Sorry guys, I had a wicked wave of akathisia. The story gets much worse. During this time, I was also hit by a half-ton pickup truck going across the road with my friend in downtown on Elgin Street in Ottawa, Canada. My life just a hell.